Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight on Our News, it's Inauguration Day in the U.S. Our News is in Washington tonight. A man accused of unlawful sexual intercourse with young girls he met on Facebook. And the police chief apologizes for language he used when describing suicide victims. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, a 35-year-old man was charged today with multiple counts of rape and unlawful sex with girls under the age of 18. Jared Higgs has the details.
35-year-old Latario Clark faced 3 counts of rape at his arraignment on Wednesday afternoon. On June 4, 2020, prosecutors allege that Clark raped a 17-year-old girl. Then on June 21, 2020, prosecutors say Clark raped a 16-year-old girl. The third rape count stems from an incident that allegedly took place just 10 days ago when police say the 35-year-old raped a 17-year-old girl. In addition to the rape charges, Clark was charged with 3 counts of unlawful sexual intercourse. In the first incident, Clark is accused of having unlawful sex with a 14-year-old girl on May 6, 2020. The second incident allegedly occurred on August 22nd and involved the 15-year-old girl. The final incident took place on November 22, 2020, where prosecutors say Clark had unlawful sexual intercourse with another 15-year-old girl. He also faced a single charge of child stealing, with prosecutors alleging that he stole a 14-year-old girl from SuperValu Nassau Street on January 9th. He was not required to enter a plea to the charges, and bail was denied due to Clark already being on bail for a similar charge. He was also charged with a single count of obstruction of justice. During his arraignment, Clark's father, Larry Martin, appeared before Magistrate Subasola Swain and informed her that he no longer wishes to stand as a surrogate for Clark in his other matter, where he's accused of trying to procure sex with an underage girl. The 35-year-old was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until April 7th. His matter will be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court by a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Commissioner of Police Paul Roll is apologizing for describing some of last year's suicide victims as weak. The National Security Minister says he hopes this misstep will inspire a national conversation on suicide. Jillian Gray has that.
We had a few of those that we know were domestic related, where, the fellas are weak and they kill themselves because they were having issues with their females.
It was that statement by Commissioner of Police Paul Roll that sparked a firestorm of criticism, with some calling his comments insensitive. Roll has since apologized for the comments, saying he was sorry for the offense caused to the families of suicide victims. National Security Minister Marvin Dames applauded Roll for recognizing his mistake.
I congratulated him for being mature enough to recognize that he had made an insensitive comment, and to say that I'm sorry.
Dame said while he understands why people interpreted the comments as they did, he does not think the police chief meant for that statement to come out that way, and people should now take him at his word and move on. Dame said he hopes that the comment would trigger discussions about suicide, as many people are going through a lot and need to know they have someone to turn to.
I think in societies like ours for a very long time, it's kind of almost shameful to disclose that you are having mental and emotional issues, and maybe this is the trigger for us now to have these open conversations.
Now, Dame said the commissioner's comments is a snapshot of what the wider community thinks about suicide, as the police force is a reflection of the community.
The men and women we recruit in these agencies, they live in the same communities we all do. And so sometimes we see play out as a reflection of our own thinking, all right? And who we are as a people. And so we all do. And that's the point I was making. And hopefully, given the fact now that these are headline discussions, we can all now look and say, what can we do better?
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Well, the United States has a new president tonight. The world watched in anxious anticipation today as Joe Biden took the oath of office, moments before Kamala Harris became the first woman and person of color to become vice president. The event was held against the backdrop of huge security concerns. Our Jerome Sawyer was on the ground today. He joins us tonight from Washington.
Well, Christina, Washington is quiet tonight as now President Joe Biden spends the first night in the White House. Despite a massive and unprecedented security presence on the ground today, the inauguration went pretty quiet, albeit very different from those in the past.
Brought to you by Solomon's Fresh Market, where you can get real food for your healthy journey.
Convoys of police vehicles, military trucks, and soldiers 5 square miles around the Capitol building looked more like a military compound than a presidential inauguration. Yet for those who lived nearby or brave enough to make the journey, it was important to be here.
This is history in the making. This is literally a once-in-a-lifetime event down here. The Capitol got sacked about 2 weeks ago. We have 25,000 National Guard troops here securing it. And this is an unprecedented inauguration. I mean, you have to go back to the War of 1812 to see the Capitol get sacked.
Despite the security concerns after that brazen attack on the Capitol building 2 weeks ago, it seemed most people who came were supporters of the Biden-Harris ticket.
It's not fast enough that he's out of here. Yeah. And that Biden and Kamala Harris are up there.
So this is an exciting day for you, right?
It's an exciting day for me.
A few blocks over, Joe Biden became the 46th U.S. president on the steps of the same building breached on January 6th.
So help you God, so help me God.
For this group of ladies from Texas, it was all about Kamala Harris.
The duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
To be able to see someone who looks like us, especially our skin tone, and, can speak for us and maybe give us hope. Yeah, we're here for it.
Even step foot.
We're here for it.
It was an international cast of media and spectators. Felipe Major, a Bahamian photojournalist now employed in the embassy here, this was his third inauguration, unlike anything he's seen before.
All the military, streets blocked off, restaurants closed. It's no people. It's just, you feel like you're in a war zone. You feel like you're sheltered, you're locked down, and you can't move. But it comes with the territory, I guess.
By all indications, it was a very quiet event. FBI, Capitol Police, and National Guard troops kept the peace, save a few religious enthusiasts. This street vendor, though, summed it up when asked about lagging sales.
I'm wondering myself where everybody is at, but I don't know. Maybe because of the proud babies came and started the ruckus. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Cold? I don't think it's cold, but I've been to a lot of events and I've never seen it like that, so your guess is good as mine.
Brought to you by Solomon's Fresh Market, where you can get real food for your healthy journey.
Now, the new president and vice president have some major challenges ahead of them, the most obvious being the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges around that. Among the very first executive orders signed today by the new president was a national mask mandate. Now, how quickly this recovery begins is certainly very much tied to the recovery of the Bahamian economy, something that we'll be watching very closely over the next few months and weeks. Over the next few weeks and months ahead. Reporting from Washington for now, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
Thanks, Jerome, and we are eagerly looking forward to your show On the Record from Washington, D.C. tomorrow evening. Well, as the economy continues its slow rebound, there is one business hub still struggling. With no cruise ships coming in, the downtown area is finding it hard to bounce back. Kyle Joaquin tells us more.
Nearly 10 months later, and many of these Bay Street businesses still look like this, with shutters on the windows and doors. And it is a telltale sign of the tough economic times many of these businesses face, as there is little to no tourist activity in the area.
Before and after the holidays, things have gone to a standstill.
Shutters and more shutters. Almost a year later, and businesses along Bay Street have still not seen the bounce back since first being closed last March. Park Lane Lux owner Leon Griffin says, unfortunately, even after having to lay off staff, things have not gotten any better.
Eventually, we had to redundant most of the staff, and we had to pay them off. And whatever we had saved, we had to pay off. And then the rent is still coming, so you got to find money to do those things.
And what's now grown into more than just an economic pinch has spread from West to East Bay Street.
It hasn't rebounded. I mean, during December, I was hopeful. We got a lot of support from the locals. From a tourist perspective, no. It's very, very slow.
Even for this taxi driver, things have been hard with no cruise ships and not many visitors leaving their hotels. He was working since 6 a.m., and when we spoke to him 9 hours later at 3 p.m., he had only one customer.
If you go on a hotel door, the one or two that open, you can get one job a day, and you can't basically survive on that, but that's just the times we live in,
Basically in this area, we are very dependent on cruise ship business. Luckily, I have a lot of support from Bahamians.
Bay Street was once an area bustling with tourist activity, with visitors everywhere. Now, driving, you'd only see a handful here or there, with locals standing in stores waiting around for some sort of business. Romeo Brown says the sight of Bay Street is depressing, with the straw market and a long list of other stores closed, some which will not reopen.
And I hope that the Prime Minister will extend the unemployment benefit, because right now, as you can see, the straw market is not operating. The taxi drivers barely can pick up people. Ain't nothing going on right now.
But not all businesses have had such a hard time. Michelle Palomino of Hover Sports said Bahamians supported in big numbers during the Christmas, and since then, business hasn't been too slow.
It was pretty good after we opened for the sidewalk. The curve, when we worked on the sidewalk, is pretty good. And then now that everybody's starting to find out we open again, because downtown, most of the advertisement that's downtown is still closed, according to the cruise ships. But we're still open, so we have to get the business to come right back downtown.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Temperatures dipping below 70 degrees this evening. Here's Greg in the weather studio to tell us more.
Thanks, Christina. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Beautiful conditions outside our studios. High pressure remains in charge of most of the area. We have 73 degrees outside our studios with just a few clouds. North-east winds at 5 knots. Your field slight temperature into the low 70s. On our satellite view around the area, high pressure remains in charge, as I mentioned, across the northwest Bahamas, providing beautiful conditions. The southeast Bahamas enjoying the dry air mass as well. That frontal boundary that was across the southeast Bahamas is lifted into the central Bahamas with some clouds associated with it. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, former Deputy Prime Minister Frank Watson opens up about his life after politics and political parties in campaign mode. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
From his 10 years in opposition to his ascent to Deputy Prime Minister, Frank Watson has enjoyed a storied career in politics. These days, the 80-year-old leads a more laid-back life. He gives Vonique Toot a glimpse of his life after politics in tonight's edition of A Closer Look.
On any given day, you'd find Frank Watson with his feet up on this comfy couch. It seemed like the perfect place to catch up with the former Deputy Prime Minister, who has shied away from the spotlight since leaving frontline politics back in 2002.
Oh, it's quiet. It's beautiful. You can do what you want to do when you want to do it. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't.
The avid tennis player would much rather be on the court, but a knee injury has put that passion on hold for the past year. He may be enjoying private life, but just look up and you'd see a wall filled with memories of his 20 years in public life.
When I went to register my first time for political office, a lot of those fellas are no longer with us, but some are still here. This is Mandela was a very special event.
Is that in the Bahamas or?
Here in the Bahamas, yeah, that's in the office of the Prime Minister.
Yet another highlight, 2010, when Southwest Highway was renamed in his honor.
That's when they named the road Frank Watson Boulevard. It's very exciting. It's touching. It was very touching. My friends came out, and it's there for posterity, so it's a wonderful thing.
How many times did you drive that road after that?
Not many. I drove it many times before that.
Watson made the leap to frontline politics after serving as Deputy Comptroller of Customs. However, even as a young boy, he had his sights set on Parliament.
At Junkanoo one morning, we were right at the back of the House of Assembly. I just thought, just went through my mind, you should be there one day.
The Long Island native's political career began in opposition. He later served in the Ingram administration for 2 terms from 1992 to 2002, working in various ministries including tourism and national security. He counts this and his time as Deputy Prime Minister as the highlight of his career.
I've always been about service. So I was able to keep my constituency intact because they knew that I was going to do the best I could for them, and did do.
In fact, a government has never been re-elected since the last administration that Watson served in back in 1997. He has a few theories on that.
If you do a sufficiently good job in your first term, people are likely to reward you. Sometimes I'm not sure that today the younger members of Parliament take their job as seriously as they should. If you're representing your people, you should try as best you can to know most, if not all of them, to ensure that they know you and they can reach you if and when they need you. And that's what I try to do. Some people get elected and they enjoy the ride.
But the former deputy to the Governor General says it was never just about enjoying the ride for him. And in 2002, he made the decision to hang up his hat.
I was just tired. I was burnt out. I didn't think I could do the things I used to do. And I decided, it's time to go.
Any regrets about that?
None whatsoever, no. I think I did what I can to the best of my ability.
But that doesn't mean you won't see the 80-year-old at a political event from time to time. I asked him if he ever finds himself missing politics.
Not today.
No.
No, I think I've done what I could when I had the opportunity. I'm happy with myself, and I hope those whom I serve.
Reporting for our News, I'm Voining Toot.
And a little over a year before the next general election is expected to be called, prospective candidates from the 3 major political parties have already started putting in the work and going from door to door. While the Prime Minister has shot down claims of an early election, his political opponents aren't convinced. Berthany McDermott has that.
Amid speculation that Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis will call an early election, Free National Movement Chairman Carl Culmer admitting that members of Parliament have hit the ground running in their respective constituencies in an effort to ensure the FNM remains the governing party.
So that's in preparation to ensure that persons see the FNM as the persons who are working on for their behalf, on and for their behalf. So it's in preparation for the return of government.
Elizabeth MP Dr. Dwayne Sands is among those in campaign mode. South Beach MP Jeff Lloyd and FNM aspirants for Golden Isles Brian Brown were also seen going door to door. Despite repeated denials of an early election, PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell isn't convinced. In his view, the FNM has launched a full-fledged campaign.
Where they themselves are going door to door, they themselves are flying up and down the country. They themselves are signing one contract or another. They themselves are involved in full-scale projects, development projects for the country. And this is always a sign that the election is near. So we would be unwise not to be prepared in these circumstances for the eventuality of an election.
As a result, he says the PLP won't be caught off guard.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Tisha Amott. This is my colleague, Mr. Ahmad Brandt, and we're here on behalf of the PLP and Senator Fred Mitchell.
And the Democratic National Alliance is of the same view. Party leader Rinthia Komalafe says, in her opinion, the Prime Minister never stopped campaigning.
Regardless of what transpires, we have always been moving in the direction to be prepared for whether there's an early election or whether the election is called as scheduled. And we believe whenever the election is called that we will be ready.
But the F&M chairman says Bahamians shouldn't listen to the noise in the market.
There's only one man that have the call on election, and it's definitely not Fred Mitchell.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Still to come, we venture inside the COVID-19 unit. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is Our News. Welcome back. 5 months after it was formed to help curb the spread of COVID-19, officer in charge of the COVID-19 unit, Chief Superintendent Zhivargo Dames, says they've already inspected more than 9,000 businesses and are now back at local airports, ensuring COVID travel protocols are followed. Jasmine Brown reports.
The COVID-19 Enforcement Unit has only been in existence for less than 6 months, but already officials here say they have visited thousands of businesses and fielded hundreds of calls each month.
We have checked some 9,000 businesses over the course of the several months the unit has been established.
As it relates to the calls, Chief Superintendent Dames said there are hundreds made each month to report infractions.
On average per month, we would have at least over 500 calls per month, easy.
The unit was established in August amidst the second wave of COVID-19 to help curb breaches of quarantine protocols and to carry out patrols of public spaces to ensure health guidelines are being followed. According to Dames, there are 92 ambassadors and more than 30 officers assigned to the unit. Those officers were extremely busy during the holidays, and even now, large gatherings at business places and the continued operation of prohibited businesses remain a constant challenge.
We find that a number of bar houses, in particular in the nights, as they operate, they're operating prohibited bars. And they have a number of persons at their bars who are patronizing their bars, sitting around their bars and drinking.
Dames said those businesses continue to be among the biggest offenders of the COVID-19 emergency orders. In addition to patrolling businesses, Dames said COVID ambassadors are back to being stationed at local airports to ensure adherence to the domestic travel protocols. Current protocols require that people traveling from New Providence to other islands have a negative PCR test no more than 5 days old, as well as a health visa.
And if you don't have it, two things can happen. Either you can be cited, or the ambassadors will turn you away to ensure that you have the relevant documents that is needed for travel.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, the road to economic recovery may be a long one, and 2021 is expected to be a year of sowing seeds that will bloom in 2022. Today, we're joined by RF Assistant Vice President of Investments, David Slatter, who tells us about some potential investment opportunities that are expected or may come on stream this year. David?
Good evening and hello, Bahamas. In the press recently, we've heard a lot of talk about PPPs as a way for some of the government projects to get completed. That'll be one of the main investment opportunities in 2021. The government needs the private sector to step in and carry a lot of the weight. They have a lot of issues they're dealing with. And just to give people an idea, a PPP is a public-private partnership. So the private sector provides the capital, the public sector provides the investment opportunity. So we think there'll be a number of those coming to market this year. In addition, hopefully the BPL rate reduction bond comes to market, and possibly the equity portion of the Nassau Cruise Port comes to market. So if you're wealthy, make sure you stay liquid. And if you're not fortunate enough to be one of the wealthy, use one of the local mutual funds to gain access to these investments that come to market in 2021.
And so how does RF help to create and manage wealth for those people who are new to this?
Well, at RF, we do have a corporate finance team, so they actually structure deals and bring them to market. Then we also have mutual funds, so investors can participate in the mutual fund and therefore invest in these offerings that come to market. And sometimes the offerings are attractive and quite often never leave the walls of RF. So sometimes you need to be involved with RF to participate in deals that we structure.
All right, and it's always great to have experts on your side. Thank you again, David.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, a Junkanoo Group gives back the details when our news returns.
There was
no Junkanoo this holiday season. They worked through December to paint the bins.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Looks like sunny skies are ahead. Greg is back in the weather studio with a look at conditions around the country.
Thanks again, Christina. Our second look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Lactogen 3 from 1 year onward, distributed by Lightburn Trading Limited. Frontal boundary across the southeast Bahamas now, moving into the central Bahamas. Cloudiness associated with that in that location. A dry air mass across the northwest and southeast Bahamas. That frontal boundary across the central Bahamas is expected to dissipate over the next couple of hours. Of course, we expect another couple of fronts getting in here, so continued beautiful weather with cooler nights expected for the next couple of days. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast to east, 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. While in the southeast Bahamas, we expect those winds to be out of the northeast to east at 15 to 20 knots, 4 to 6 foot seas. So we have a caution flag posted for you guys down there. Low tide will be at 7:23 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everyone. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, the Immortals Junkanoo Group donating 15 hand-painted garbage bins to the Mount Moriah constituency today. Group leader Jermaine Williams says since there was no Junkanoo this holiday season, they worked through December to paint the bins.
When we designed these, it was like we was doing Junkanoo, so it's like giving back to the community. And also we felt that Junkanoo again, because of the COVID, we didn't do Junkanoo, so it was something that me and the guys put together. And I think the bins came out very, very nice.
The donation was part of a larger project that included the refurbishment of parks, the removal of nearly 300 derelict vehicles, a community cleanup, and a stray dog spaying campaign. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.